Good morning. I want to start the show off with something new, and it's going to be this. Choices at times can appear easy, but the consequence of that easy choice can be hard to live with if it's wrong. I want you to always choose the right thing because there's always going to be a consequence. Sometimes the consequence is negative, sometimes it's positive. Definitely, if you choose to walk the road to Wiz with me, that's definitely a positive choice. So, good morning, and let's get started. Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is your host, Danny Graham. Welcome to my show, The Road to Wisdom. Today is September the 13th, and it is Wednesday morning here in the state of South Carolina. Last night we had a thunder boomer. It rained and it thundered so loud. It knocked the power out briefly for about maybe 2 seconds and it came back on. But I was able to get a good night's rest. The Lord did his work last night, and thank God he woke me up in my right mind. So I definitely appreciate that, Lord. Thank you very much. Thank you all for joining my show. If this is your first time joining my show, then what I usually do here is I do a word of the day, a scripture of the day, and a quote of the day. And I want to go ahead and get right into today's word. And today's word is lonely or loneliness. Lonely or loneliness. And I'm going to give you the definition right here of loneliness, and it is as follows. Lonely, the definition is without companions, solitary, unfrequented, and remote. I'll say that one more time. The definition of lonely or loneliness is without companions, solitary, unfrequented, and remote. The scripture today comes from the book of Proverbs, and it's as follows. Proverbs 18th chapter, the first verse, it says, "A man who isolates himself seeks his own desires. He rages all wise judgment." I said it one more time. Book of Proverbs, the 18th chapter, the first verse. It says, who a man who isolates himself seeks his own desires. He rages all wise judgment. Proverbs has always been, as y'all know, my favorite book of the Bible, and it also this explains to us a lot of things that's going on. Just a key to life. And excuse me, that technical difficulties. To me, Proverbs is just a roadmap for life. It tells you about all different aspects of life. And today we're going to focus on, like I said, loneliness. Genesis, the second chapter, 18th verse says, God claims that it is not good for man to be alone. God proclaims that. Like I said, in the book of Genesis, second chapter, 18th verse, that's his proclamation. He does not want man. It is not good for man to be alone. That is why when Adam was in the Garden of Eden and he was naming all the different birds and frogs and all the different animals and stuff that God created, God knew that he needed a soulmate or he needed someone, a companion to be with. So that's why he caused Adam to go into a deep sleep. And he took a part of Adam's rib, a part of his own body, and closed it back up. And then he fashioned a woman by the name of Eve out of that rib, out of the rib of the man. That's why we hear some people, if you ever watched the movie, what was it? Golden Boy, I think it was, where Jody was, played by Tyrese Gibson and Taraji P. Henson. They played in that movie, and he was always referred to Taraji P. as his rib. I think his name was Jody in there. He always, Baby Boy, that's the name of the movie, Baby Boy. And he always referred to Taraji P. Henson as his rib. And that was trying to be, I guess, symbolic of what Jesus did, what God did in the Garden of Eden. He took a rib from out of Adam while he was in his deep sleep and fashioned him a mate, a woman whose name was Eve. And that was mainly because God knew that Adam needed a helper. He knew that he needed a companion. He needed someone that he could share his life with, have a discussion with. talk about all different kind of things, do all different kind of things, and just be together and not be lonely, because it's not good. Like I said again in Genesis 2nd chapter 18th verse, God proclaims that it is not good for man to be alone. And sometimes loneliness can be a lot of times loneliness can be very debilitating. It also can be very just give you such despair, give you such like no one cares about you, no one loves you, especially for older people. How many times have we gone to well, I've not been through a nursing home or a assisted living facility, and you see people, especially older people, just sitting there in the chairs, they're laying in the bed, and they seem like that no one cares about them. And I'm not saying that's the fact. I'm just saying the mind's appearance and the perception of it looks like as you walk through, like they're in pain a lot of times and just moaning here a lot of times. And it's just like they're just so lonely and no one's there to take care of them. And then sometimes that's the case, sometimes it's not the case. But loneliness, it can be very debilitating for individuals. It can be very depressing for some people, and sometimes it can cause you when you're by yourself, and that's when the devil can mess with you the most, and just make you put things in your mind and make you think of things that you normally wouldn't think of, where you're in a very active social environment. For instance, some people, when they're by themselves, they have nothing to occupy their minds, they'll start drinking and become, if they drink enough, and that's all they seem they want to do, they become alcoholics, or they become functioning alcoholics. They drink times they get home, they drink whatever till the time they go to bed and pass out, and they wake up in the morning, go to work, and then they repeat the process over and over again. And that's from loneliness. And a lot of times I think a person that's lonely could be an introvert. An introvert's someone that keep to themselves. So yeah, he may look like he or she may come to work like they're actually functioning, or that's what you said, acting kind of weird, or maybe just kind of standoffish. But a lot of times it could be, and sometimes it is the fact that they're lonely. They don't have anyone to interact with at home, or they lost their loved one, or they once were very socially active, but then they lost someone very near and dear to them, a parent, a wife, a child, and now they're just kind of drawn in within themselves and don't have anyone to talk to, and just in so much grief and pain, they become introverts, and then a lot of times they turn to alcohol for a source of relief and escape. But that's a derivative of being lonely. Another example of loneliness, what can come from being lonely is that say for instance your spouse died, or I've seen this a lot of time and read about it. Your spouse who you adore, you love, dies in childbirth, and there's some resentment towards that child, and sometimes that resentment can turn to child abuse or mistreatment of the child, or your husband or your wife died and you left alone with all the bills, all the responsibility, and you just get frustrated, just get so frustrated, and one day your child gets on your nerves and you snap, and then you hit them, and then this becomes a repetitive process. And it stemmed from being lonely because you had that support. You had that individual that you love and you adore, now that it's gone. And some people get mad at God, like, why did you take my husband? Why did you take my wife? Or why did you take whoever the case may be? And that frustration, that grief, all mixed together, and that loneliness can cause them to do some things they normally wouldn't do. And one of those things is child abuse. A lot of times you can just get so depressed, and all you want to do is, when you come to work, get in the bed and go to sleep, and just sleep your life away. I've heard of stories about that where people just normally they were outgoing, social butterflies, so to speak, and were interacting with their family and stuff, but they lost someone, and the grief and the devastation is just so bad. And as a coping mechanism, they just go to sleep. They'll take a nap. You always, what you doing? What you doing? Oh, I'm just going to take a nap. I'm tired. Whatever. Always tired, never energetic, don't want to talk. And normally we're outgoing, funny, great to be around, and now that depression that set in, that loneliness, that person that they really love is no longer around, something happened to them, or they left for something, bad divorce or whatever, and now they're just trying to cope with it as best they can. And one of the things they do to cope with loneliness is just go to sleep. Another thing would be personality disorders. Personality disorders, and also when going to sleeping and sleeping, there can be sleeplessness too. They can get bouts of insomnia. Just their mind can't stop, they can't rest, and they just stay up. And by not getting enough rest, and of course that's going to make you tired. I read a stat um, at a recent driving course, and it was saying that um, lack of sleep or staying up too long is like equivalent to drinking alcohol and blowing a .10. In South Carolina, that's the legal age. Well, .08 is legal age of intoxication. But staying up 17 or more hours or not getting enough sleep is equivalent to .10. That's even higher than the legal limit here in South Carolina for DUI. So that's a interesting fact, because if you don't get enough sleep or you stay up too long, then you can get into what appears to be a drunken state. So that's not good either. Um, Personality disorder. Sometimes people can form split personalities. Now, I've never seen one of those personally. I see it on TV. I heard about it. I know that it's a psychiatric thing. I've never seen that in person where someone has these multiple personalities. Now, I see someone that has mood swings. Someone can come in very moody, and sometimes you may kind of refer to it in a joking manner. Man, you got a split personality because he come in one way like this, the next day he comes in like that, and the next day he comes in like this. So I've heard that term used, but to actually see someone has been diagnosed to have a split personality, I've never seen that. So, but according to my research, loneliness can cause you, I guess, to develop. I know when kids we would have those little imaginary friends. So I'm guessing as an adult, that imaginary friend, if you're lonely, you try to keep your mind, trying to keep itself occupied and stimulated, that it can create someone else, and I guess talk to yourself or become a whole different personality. I guess that is the science behind that, or the study behind that. I don't know, because I'm not a doctor, I'm not a psychiatrist, but my research says that loneliness can cause that. Um, it can cause you a cognitive decline in your brain thought process. Your brain process and thought patterns can decline because you're not stimulated. You can only do so much by yourself. I know you can read a lot of books and you can, I guess, watch a lot of TV or whatever, but you need that social interaction with someone, another human being, and it's something. It's natural about it. It's organic. So you have to make sure that you stay properly stimulated and properly engaged in social events. Find someone that you can talk to. You don't necessarily have to agree with one another. There is a movie that I watch. It's one of my favorite movies. It's called Finding Forrester, and it stars Sean Connery. He's an old writer. He wrote this one book that's like critically acclaimed and is just fantastic in the literary world. He befriends a young black guy who is smart. His name is Jamal, and he's good in sports and he's good in like writing and stuff. He's like a phenomenon. What's the word? Someone who's really good. He's like he's just like very very smart, very gifted, and Sean Connery Sean Connery had accumulated and acquired so much success that, and I think he had a psychiatric disorder too. He was scared to go outside. I think after his wife died, he kind of became a recluse, a hermit, and he stayed in the house. But Jamal was like the only one that was able to get through to him, and they became friends. And in that friendship, the Sean Connery character gave him pointers on how to read and gave him pointers on life. And he befriended Jamal because he was lonely. And Jamal was someone that seems like he was a good person. Seems like he was someone he could teach and pass on his knowledge and wisdom to. And in the end, he did. And Jamal wrote this very intense, very critically acclaimed, it was just a superior writing about something about life overall. He was only like 16 years old, but he had a professor who was jealous of his intelligence, of his ability to just at such a young age to write stuff that was just so profound. And they had a little challenge against each other, and Jamal got the upper hand. But the professor then went on a witch hunt and just tried to everywhere he could make something hard for Jamal, he did. And then finally, in the particular story that Jamal had to turn in to the professor, it used some of Sean Connery's previous writings, which Sean Connery gave him permission to do. But Sean Connery said, if I give you this is to help you start off and you can use it, but don't tell anybody that I'm alive and who I am, because the world thought he was dead. So Professor was able to find out that, look, this is plagiarism. This is not your words. These are words from this story right here. And where'd you get that from? Because the only way you can use it is if that person gives you permission to do so. And Jamal wouldn't tell him. He just wouldn't tell him. And then they was trying to kick him out of school, trying to fail him, all kind of stuff. So when he went back to Sean Connery at the apartment, he said, look, man, I need your help. They're trying to get rid of me and destroy me, man. You need to tell them that you gave me permission to do it. And he's like, no, I'm not going to do that. But then finally, Sean Connery did come to the school where Jamal was at, and he read Jamal's actual writing in front of the whole school. And the professor was just so enamored with Sean Connery. He's like, your words are magnificent and fantastic. Please tell me, why did you come here today? And he said, well, those words I just read, he's like, yeah, they were marvelous. They were beautiful. Those weren't my words. Those are Jamal's. And he's my friend. And I gave him permission to do it. And the professor just couldn't believe it. He was like, no. Well, it's not going to change the fact that Jamal is going to be dealt with and all this kind of stuff. And then the professor's boss stood up and said, no, sit down. Sean Connery, I can't think of his name, but I'm going to say, Mr. Connery, you cleared this up quite nicely. Jamal, all these charges against you have been dismissed. Very, very, very good story you wrote. I'm just amazed that someone at your young age can do that. And I'm just telling you briefly the basis of the movie. Well, I'm going to look more than briefly, but it's called Finding Forrester, and it is fantastic if you like those kind of movies. But it's a story about loneliness and how loneliness set this man back. I mean, he was a hermit for a good portion of his life, but when he met Jamal, a younger person, it kind of breathed life into him. And he became himself once again. He went back home, and I won't tell you the rest of the story, but it's a story about loneliness. But this guy was able to get over that loneliness and prevail and get back to himself. So I say all that to say that God said it again in Genesis. He proclaimed that, man, it is not good for man to be alone. It's just not. That reminds me of a Ray Parker song, but it's like, I don't think that man should sleep alone. And of course, you know what he's thinking as a love song, but some of that is true. Man shouldn't be alone. In my opinion, it shouldn't. I think God specifically made a woman for a man. He did any other kind of pairings that I can read in the Bible. I don't think that he liked other kind of pairings that we see in today's time, and I'm not trying to throw shade at anybody. I mean, you do what you want to do if you're grown, but if you're a believer, which I am, and coming from a viewpoint, a standpoint from a believer, other lifestyles aren't in the Bible. Only lifestyle I see in the Bible is a man and a woman pairing, no other combination of lifestyle or anything. So that's just food for thought. Again, those are my 2 cents on the word lonely. I hope that whatever I did, whatever I said, the story that I said, I hope it all resonates with you. I hope it all gives you something to think as you're driving into work. I hope it gives you something to think if you're sitting at your desk. I hope it gives you something to think about if you're getting dressed, listening to me. And I hope that you take these videos that I do and try to pass them on to people. Try to spread the word because I'm trying to come from a very positive point of view. We have so much negativity today in the world, and it's just sometimes it can be exhausting to listen to all this negative stuff on the news, here on YouTube, in life, everywhere. So I think positivity is something that's been long past due. And that's what I'm coming from, straight positivity. The glass is always half full. I know yesterday was a particular situation at work, and I was disappointed, and I said, man, I'm depressed at this time. But and my boss was like, Danny, you're not supposed to be like that now. You know, you change your life, and let's be positive. I said, yeah, sir, I'm going to be positive. I said, but right now, this very second, I'm a little disappointed in the news that he told me because I thought something was going to happen, and it didn't happen. But I went back upstairs and started doing my work. I quickly bounced back. Hey, it's not the end of the world. And he said something. He said, Danny, did your title or did your money change? Your salary change? I said, no, sir. He said, don't worry about it. We good. There's still air in the tire. That's what one of my supervisors said. There's still air in the tire. So long as there's still air in the tire, then that means we're going to keep rolling. So if this is the first time you've ever seen me in this platform, then I'm asking you to please subscribe. I'm also asking you, in addition to subscribing, is to hit that notification bell because I don't want you to miss any material that I upload in the future. Also, you're going to see a thumbs up. That's a like button. I need you to hit that as well. I want you to also leave me a comment if you choose to feel the need to do so. I hope that you do, because any comment that you leave, I will definitely read it and respond back to you. And last but not least, any video that I do, I'm going to ask you to please watch it from the start to the end. That helps out with the YouTube algorithm. I can see and keep track of all this stuff. How many times people click on here, how long they stay on here, the average time they stay on here, and the number of views that I get. And I'm asking, I want to get as many views as humanly possible on each and every show that I do. But I can only do that with your help. Last but not least, before we get out of here, I'm going to read the quote of the day. And the quote of the day for the word lonely is, and this comes from the great actor that passed. I think he killed himself, committed suicide, Robin Williams. And he said, I used to think that the worst thing in life was to end up alone. It's not. The worst thing in life is to end up with people that make you feel all alone. That's profound. So, until tomorrow, please come back and check me out and make sure that you get your pair of shoes, because we're going to keep walking on this road to wisdom, and I need you to stay here with me. Until then, take it easy.